share with you
The majority of Ecdysozoans
deal with the nervous system.
So as you can see from the title, what the first thing that come out from your mind? Diversity, Ecdysozoans? Yes, that's right. But what is Ecdysozoan actually? The Ecdysozoans are protostomes and include roundworms and arthropods. Compared to spirillum protostomes, Ecdysozoans do not undergo spiral clearance. They are also one of the major groups of animals which also contain the largest number of species. Number one is roundworms. Roundworms or Phylum Ultrapods are non-selected worms that are prevalent in almost any environment. Around 20,000 species have been identified, but a million species may exist. Nematodes have been characterized as the most numerous multicellular organisms on Earth, mainly because they are so abundant in soil. Some of them, including the tubular reproductive organs, live within the spore column. A spore column is a body cavity that is incompletely linked by mesoderm. In other words, mesoderm occur inside the body wall but do not around the digestive cavity. One free-living species, Carapace elegans, have been used extensively as a model animal to study genetics and development of biology.
CDC, which stands for Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, estimates that at any 1 billion people will be infected with nematodes of the genus Lascaris. Other Lascaris species can infect domestic animals and a number of vertebrates, but this is really rare in the United States but common in tropical countries with poor sanitation. Lascaris males tend to be smaller than the female, which is within 15 to 31 centimeters long, and the female is between 20 to 49 centimeters long. And also the female produces 200,000 eggs daily. Eggs of the female Lascaris enter the human body via uncooked vegetables, soiled fingers, or ingested fecal material, and they will hatch in the intestine. Their way up into the veins and lymphatic vessels are carried to the hearts or lungs. From the lungs, the larvae will travel to the trachea where they are swallowed and end up in the intestines. Then the larvae will be matured and start feeding on the intestinal content.
The symptoms of Lascaris infection depend on the stage of the infection. Infection of larval Lascaris in the lungs can cause coughing or bloody sputum. In the intestine, Lascaris can cause malnutrition, blockage of the bile, pancreatic ducts, and poor health. Trichinosis caused by the nematode Trichinella spirals. It is a serious infection that humans can get when they eat rat pork containing encysted Trichinella larvae. After maturation, the female adult burrows into the wall of the small intestine and produces living offspring, which are carried by the bloodstream to the skeletal muscle where they encyst. Filarial worms, another type of roundworm that cause various diseases. Mosquitoes can transmit the larva of a parasitic filarial worm to dogs. The worms live in the heart and arteries that serve the lungs. The infection is called heartworm disease. The condition can be fatal. Therefore, heartworm medicine is recommended as a preventive measure for all dogs.
So now, I will share with you about elephantiasis. Elephantiasis is caused by a native filarial worm, Wuchereria bancrofti. This disease is restricted to tropical areas of Africa and use mosquito as a vector to transmit the disease. The adult filarial worms reside in the lymphatic vessel, and the lymph fluid can be removed. An infected person's body may swell to a monstrous size. The elephantiasis is treatable in early stages, but usually not after a scar tissue has blocked the lymphatic vessel. The WHO lists elephantiasis as one of the 15 neglected tropical diseases that affect the impoverished nation. Also estimated that 120 million people in subtropical and tropical areas have the elephantiasis.
Arthropods. What are arthropods? The arthropods are a very large group of protostomes that have exoskeleton and jointed appendages. The phylum Arthropods includes insects, crustaceans, millipedes, centipedes, spiders, and scorpions. Characteristics of the arthropods. Arthropods are dependent on 5 characteristics: an exoskeleton, segmentation, a well-developed nervous system, a variety of respiratory system, and a life cycle that includes metamorphosis. Exoskeleton of arthropods. Arthropods have a rigid, jointed exoskeleton. Exoskeleton is composed primarily of chitin, a strong, flexible, nitrogenous polysaccharide. The exoskeleton serves as protection, attachment for muscles, locomotion, and prevention of desiccation. Since it is hard and non-expandable, arthropods must mold or shed the exoskeleton as they grow larger. Arthropods have this in common with other Ecdysozoans. Before molting, the body secretes a new larger exoskeleton, which is soft and wrinkled underneath the old one. After enzymes partially dissolve and weaken the old exoskeleton, the animal breaks it open and wriggles out. The new exoskeleton then quickly expands and hardens. Segmentation of the arthropods. Each segment has a pair of jointed appendages, even though certain segments are fused into head, thorax, and abdomen. The jointed appendages of arthropods are basically hollow tubes moved by muscles. The appendages function as food gathering, reproduction, and locomotion. The nervous system of arthropods. Arthropods have a brain and a ventral nerve cord. The head bears various types of sense organs, including eyes of two types, which are simple and compound. The compound eye is composed of many complete visual units, each of which operates independently. The lens of each visual unit focuses on image on the light-sensitive membrane of a small number of photoreceptors within that unit. The simple eye has a single lens that brings the image to focus onto many receptors, each of which receives only a portion of the image. Many arthropods have well-developed touch, smell, taste, balance, hearing, and display many complex behaviors and methods of communication. Variety of respiratory system. Arthropods of marine forms use gills which are vascularized, highly convoluted, thin-walled tissue specialized for gas exchange. Terrestrial forms have book lungs, for example spiders, or air tubes called trachea, also known as a windpipe. Trachea serve as a rapid way to transport oxygen directly to the cells. Life cycle that includes metamorphosis. Many arthropods undergo a drastic change in form and physiology that occurs as an immature stage or larva becomes an adult. Among arthropods, the larva eats different food and lives in a different environment that does the adult. For example, larval crabs live among and feed on plankton, while adult crabs are boat dwellers that catch live prey on scavenged dead organic matter. Insects such as butterflies, the caterpillar feeds on leafy vegetation while the adult feeds on nectar.
Crustaceans, the name actually comes from their white crusty exoskeleton that contains calcium carbonate in addition to the typical chitin. Crustaceans are extremely diverse, but the head usually bears a pair of compound eyes and 5 pairs of appendages. Decapods, which is the most familiar crustaceans such as crabs, lobster, crayfish, hermit crabs, and shrimp. Decapods, or krill, which is the small free-swimming crustacean that lives in water and feed on algae. They serve as foods for fishes, sharks, and whales. Barnacles, which is a sessile crustaceans with a thick, heavy protective shell, and they can live on the wharf pilings, ship hulls, seaside rocks, and even the bodies of the whales. They can live as a free-swimming larvae, but they undergo a metamorphosis that transforms their swimming appendages to cerci, feathery structures that are extended so they can filter feed when they submerge. So here it is the antenna, and they have the compound eye, a pair of compound eye here. The hole here will be the mouth. The blue thing here is the gills of the crayfish. The shell, this hard shell here, is the carapace, what we call the carapace. The green thing here is the swimmerets. It's not actually green, but I make it green because I want to show it different from the body so you guys can see it better. This is the telson, which is the middle part of the tail. It is called telson. This hole here, the anus, and the uropods, which is the two tails here, 2 segments of the tails here, is called the uropod. First walking leg, which is shaped like a pincher claw. Second walking leg, the third walking leg, fourth walking leg, and the fifth walking leg. The head and the thorax fuse into cephalothorax, which is covered by the carapace. At the abdominal segment, have swimmerets, which is small paddle-like structures. The first 2 pairs here, only for the male crayfish, are known as claspers, and they are very strong and they are used to pass the sperm to the female. And for the last 2 segments here, they bear the uropods and the telson, which makes a fan-shaped tail. When hunting, the crayfish will wait for the prey and walks out from an enclosed space with its claws extended and the antenna moving out. So they seize any small animals, either dead or alive, using its claws and bring it to its mouth. The stomach of the crayfish is divided into 2 regions, which is an anterior portion called the gastric meal, and it is equipped with chitinous teeth to grind the coarse food, and the other region is the posterior region, which acts like a filter to prevent the coarse particles from entering the digestive glands where the absorption takes place. A heart pumps hemolymph containing the blue respiratory pigment hemocyanin into a hemocoel consisting of sinuses, which is open spaces, and in mollusks, such as snail, clam, or octopus. This is an open circulatory system because blood is not contained within the blood vessels. The crayfish also has a very well-developed nervous system, which is a brain and a ventral nerve cord that passes posteriorly. And along the cord, there is a parotid ganglia which gives off lateral nerves. The crayfish also have a very well-developed sensory organs, which is their compound eyes on the ends of their movable eye stalks. And these eyes are very accurate and can detect motion and respond to polarized light. In the crayfish, the sexes are also separate. In the male, a coiled sperm duct opens to the outside of the fifth walking leg. Meanwhile, in the female, the ovaries open at the bases of their third walking leg. Following the fertilization, the eggs are attached to the somates of the female.
Centipedes and millipedes are known for their many legs. A centipede, known as 100-leggers, have a pair of appendages in almost every segment. The approximately 3,000 species prefer to live in moist environments such as underdogs, in crevices, and in leaf litter where they are active predators on worms, small crustaceans, and insects. The head of centipedes include paired antennae and jawline mandibles. Appendages on the first trunk segment are corline, venomous jaws that kill or immobilize prey while mandibles chew. In millipedes, or also well known as thousand-leggers, has two pairs of legs on most segments, while abdominal segments have two pairs of legs. Millipedes live under stones or burrow in the soil as they feed on litter. The clinical bodies have a top, continuous exoskeleton. Some secrete hydrogen carnides, a poison substance.
Insect. The insect body is divided into three parts, which is a head, a thorax, and abdomen. Every part of the body plays their own roles. Many of insects will undergo a complete metamorphosis, involving drastic change in form. Some of the insects show remarkable behavior and have a complete society, such as a bee. Insects also serve an important role as a food sources for other animals and carnivorous plants. The insect also can provide we as a human a food. For example, we can get a honey from a bee. A typical insect, the grasshopper, have three pairs of legs. The first abdominal segment bears a large tympanum for the restriction of sound wave. The posterior region in the exoskeleton in female has ovipositor used to dig a hole. The hole is used to eggs are laid. The digestive system is suitable for an herbivorous diet. As we know, grasshopper is a herbivorous animal. The food is broken down mechanically by mouth part and enzymatically by salivary secretion in their mouths. The food is temporarily stored in the crop before passing into the gizzard. The digestion is complete in the stomach and nutrients are absorbed into the hemocoel from odd pockets called gastric caca. The respiratory system begins with opening in the exoskeleton called spiracles. First, air enters small tubules called trachea and finally ends in moist area where the actual exchange of gases take place. The movement of air through this complex of tubules is not a passive process. Breathing by trachea accounts for the small cells of insect only. Calicrate. The calicrates live in terrestrial, aquatic and marine environment. Calicrates pinch light used in feeding and defense the pedipalps, which can have various functions. The body of horseshoe crab of the genus Limulus is covered by exoskeleton. Ticks, mites, scorpion, spider and hibiscus are all the aeronite. The ticks are ectoparasites of various vertebrates. The tick is carried for such disease as rock mountain, spotted fever and lyme disease. So the tick next, I will talk about the scorpion. The scorpion is a nocturnal and spend most of the day hidden under a log and a rock. Scorpion pedipalps are larger pincer and their long abdomen ends with a stinger which contain a venom. So if a human get the sting by the scorpion, it may be a fatal death for them. Lastly, about the spider. Spider is the most familiar calicrate among others. Spider has a narrow waist that separates the cephalothorax from the abdomen. The spider does not have any compound eyes, but it has numerous simple eyes that perform a similar function. The calicrate are modified as fangs which ducts from poison glands, and the pedipalps are used to hold, taste and chew food. Spider abdomen often contains seed glands, and spider may spin a web in which to trap their prey. So, by using their sticky glands, so they can catch their prey.
In conclusion, roundworms which have a pseudocolumn are present almost everywhere in great numbers. Many have adapted to a parasitic lifestyle. Example in human include Lascaris, trichinella larvae and filarial worms. Many biologists consider arthropods to be the most successful varied group of animals. Their success is largely attributable to a flexible exoskeleton, high degree cephalization, and a variety of respiratory organs. Many undergo some form of metamorphosis. Crustaceans, insects, and chelistrates are representative groups of arthropods. Centipedes and millipedes are known for their many legs. Insects include butterflies, grasshoppers, bees, and beetles. The anatomy of the grasshopper is adapted to live on land, and it also has trachea for respiration, internal fertilization, and incomplete metamorphosis. Chelistrates have chelistrate pedipalps and 4 pairs of walking legs attached to a cephalothorax.